All right, Shalom Israel. First and foremost, as always, I would like to give all praises, honor, glory, respect, and blessings to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rachaha, Quadash. Salutations to the Lord's elect on the four corners of the earth, pushing His truth and sincerity while patiently waiting for Yahweh Shai's return, and double honors to our apostles and elders of Great Millstone, which have taught us everything we know through the spirit and power of Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai. And this is going to be a breakdown of Revelation, the 6th chapter. I know Apostle Tahar put out a decree for us to start, breaking down chapters in the Bible, especially since there are those that are new just coming in. So I did say I was going to take the initiative on Apostle Tahar's comment board to break down some of these chapters. And I'm still going to do Revelation 9, but I'm going to start at 6. Because Revelation, the 6th chapter, is also a book, especially those who are new just coming into the truth. They get confused and they get mixed up on. So without further ado, I'm going to get right into it. And plus, I'm in the middle of doing laundry. So this will be a really good time to, get into this lesson. So Revelation chapter 6, verse 1. And I saw when the Lamb opened one of the seals. Now let's stop right there. The Lamb, which, even if you're new coming into the truth, you should know who the Lamb is, okay? But if you don't know who the Lamb is, let's real quick go to the book of Isaiah. And I believe it's, let me see, Isaiah, because the book of Isaiah gives you a hint as to who the Lamb is. I just need to figure out what chapter it's actually in. Okay, Isaiah 53 verse 1. Who have believed our report, and to whom is the arm of the Lord revealed? Okay, the arm of the Lord is talking about Yahweh Shai. Who is Yahweh Shai revealed to? Well, I can tell you this much. He is not revealed to many on this planet. For he shall grow up before him as a tender plant, right? Which means that he was born just like any other regular human being was born on the planet, okay? He had a mother and a father. Okay, he came out as a baby, a tender plant. He came out as a baby. Herod, the red dragon spoken of in Revelation, the 12th chapter, tried to murder him as when Yahweh Shai was only a baby. And Moses and Mary fled into Egypt before Herod could carry out his decree. Okay, so he grew up as a tender plant. So Joseph and Mary had sex, and that union brought forth Yahweh Shai. Okay, and as a root out of a dry ground, he have no form nor comeliness, and when we see him, there is no beauty that we should desire him. He is despised and rejected of men, okay? That can also be found, I believe, in the book of Matthew. Well, I don't know the exact chapter, but in the book of Matthew, okay, when Yahweh Shai went to his own people, okay, when he went to his own people to prophesy, he was rejected, okay? Our people did not acknowledge him as the Messiah. And then, Yahweh Shai made that statement a prophet is without honor, save in his own in his own city. So Yahushua was rejected of his own people. He is despised and rejected of men, and not only was he despised and rejected in his own place, his own birthplace, okay, where he was raised at, you know. Okay, he was also rejected amongst the Israelites wherever he went. But now he was not rejected by everyone. You had Israelites who saw the miracles he did. They believed on him. They followed him. Then you had the majority of our people who did not accept the Messiah, and they rejected him, okay? A man of sorrows, right? Yahushua was a man of sorrows. And when you're a man of sorrows, what are you going to do? You're going to drink wine, right? This is why he was known as a wine bibbler. This is why he was known as a wine bibber. A wine bibber is a person that drinks wine, okay? The Holy Scriptures tell you that wine maketh the heart, which is the mind, merry, okay? It says, and acquainted with grief. And we did hid, as it were, our faces from him. He was despised, and we esteemed him not. Surely he have borne our griefs and carried our sorrows, yet we esteemed him stricken, smitten of Yahweh, and afflicted. But he was wounded for our transgressions, he was bruised for our iniquities. The chastisement of our peace was upon him, and with his stripes we are healed. Okay. All we like sheep have gone astray. We have turned everyone to his own way, and Yahweh have laid on him the iniquity of us all. He was oppressed and he was afflicted, yet he opened not his mouth. He is brought as a lamb. You see, this is talking about Yahushua. Isaiah 53, Isaiah the 53rd chapter is going into Yahushua. Okay, Isaiah prophesied of Yahushua's return. Okay. Okay, so he was oppressed and he was afflicted, yet he opened not his mouth. Okay, he is brought as a lamb to the slaughter, and as a sheep before her shearers, he is dumb, so he openeth not his mouth. And yeah, he became dumb, especially when he was being interrogated by Pilate, okay? You know, if Pilate, questioned him, rather if the allegations that were made against him were true or not, and basically he kept quiet. So that's what it means by dumb. The word dumb means you can't speak, which Yahushua could speak, but he chose not to speak. Okay, which also fulfilled this very precept right here. And as a sheep before her shearers is dumb, so he openeth not his mouth. So let's go back to Revelation chapter 1 verse 6. And I saw when the Lamb opened one of the seals, and I heard as it were the noise of thunder, and you'll have several accounts of that in the Holy Scriptures, where whenever the Lord would speak, others would hear thunder. But then those of whom the Lord wanted to hear his voice, it would be the voice of the Lord speaking to them. Okay. So, others said they heard thunder, but the prophets of the Lord said, the people, the ones of whom the Lord was dealing with, they said they heard thunder. Okay. So, but anyways, I thought I'd bring that out for additional edification. And I heard as it were the noise of thunder, one of the four beasts saying, come and see. And I saw and behold a white horse. And this white horse is not talking about an actual horse, okay? In the Holy Scriptures, what the world ignorantly calls UFOs is referred to many things. Okay, in the Holy Scriptures, and I don't need to get the precepts, but in the Holy Scriptures, what the world calls UFOs are referred to as clouds. Sometimes they are referred to as a pillar of light by day and a fiery pillar by night. Sometimes they are referred to as a flying roll, a whirlwind, clouds. Okay, but they are known as, for the most part, the chariots of Israel. Okay, they are known as the chariots of Israel. So this white horse is just another metaphor or a dark saying for the UFO that Yahweh Shai is going to return in. Because according to 2nd Esdras, the 13th chapter, and you could just start at the first verse and read on down, it gives you a good idea of how the Messiah is going to return. Okay, and his UFO is described as being so big that it literally looked like a mountain was moved out of its place. And Esdras basically could not see the beginning nor the end of where the chariot started or ended from. It was so huge. Like you look up at the sky and basically you see no beginning nor end of it. So Yahushai's UFO, so-called UFO, is so big that Esdras could not see the beginning nor the end of it. But he said that the Lord had engraved himself a big mountain and flew up upon it. Okay. It also tells you in Revelation 1 verse 7 that when the Messiah returns, he's coming back with clouds. Okay. And when you go into that word clouds in the book of Psalms, the 103rd chapter, right? Well, not clouds, but the word chariot. When you go into that word chariot, because in the book of Psalms, the 103rd chapter, right? Who maketh the clouds his chariot. Okay. That the chariot is speaking of, when you go into that word chariot, I believe it's Rachawab. It's the Hebrew word Rachawab, which means a vehicle. And the so-called UFOs are the vehicles in which the angels, which look like so-called black men traveling, they're also the vehicles in which the Messiah is coming back in. Okay, like then they kind of give you a good depiction of what that looks like in the first movie called Independence Day. So this white horse is the Messiah's UFO, what the Bible calls the chariots of Israel, that he's going to be returning in. Okay, and he that sat upon him had a bow, and a crown was given unto him, and he went forth conquering to conquer. Because when Yahushua comes back, he's coming back to take down all of these other nations, okay? And a matter of fact, the Bible tells you that he had many crowns on his head, right? Those many crowns means that Yahushua is going to take down all of the rulers of this world, starting with the number one ruler on the planet, which is Esau Edom, the biblical Edomite, the so-called white man, which are the biblical Edomites. Okay, on his head he had many crowns. Okay, so this is Revelation 19 verse. Let's see. Okay, and this shows you that this is the Messiah who is sitting upon that white horse. Okay, like it tells you in Isaiah the 28th chapter, for precept must be upon precept. Precept upon precept, line upon line, line upon line, here a little, there a little. Okay, the easiest way to do that is to go to the Blue Letter Bible and type in a particular word and then link that particular word, which is in one precept, with other precepts, picking the meat off the bones, dividing the word of truth, rightly dividing the word of truth to get the proper understanding of the Holy Scriptures. So this is Isaiah 19 verse 12. And I saw heaven open. When it says I saw heaven open, that's talking about the Messiah is going to crack the skies, okay? Because he's going to come from the east, okay? Yahushua is coming from the east. And he tells you that in the book of Matthew and also in the book of Luke, I believe. He mentioned that to his disciples, okay? Even as lightning coming from the east or something along that effect, okay? So when the Messiah returns, he's coming from the east. Okay. Okay, so and I saw heaven open, and behold, a white horse. And again, this white horse is what the world ignorantly calls UFOs. Okay. This white horse is who the world ignorantly calls UFOs. Okay. And this is the chariot of Israel that the Messiah is going to be returning in. And he that sat upon him was called faithful and true. That's the Messiah. And in righteousness, he doth judge and make war. How does he judge and make war? Right? Let's go real quick. Isaiah. Let's go to Isaiah, the 66th chapter and the 15th verse. Isaiah chapter 66, verse 15. Okay. For behold, the Lord will come with fire and with his chariots like a whirlwind, to render his anger with fury and his rebuke with flames of fire. Okay. For by fire and by his sword will the Lord plead with all flesh, and the sword of the slain of the Lord shall be many. Now, when you go into that word plead goes into judge. Okay, because it doesn't mean that when the Lord come back, he's going to be on his knees. Please stop with the violence. And please, you're killing all the animals, the insects. Even the sky is crying. Nah, bro. When he come back, he coming back to make war. What did Yahushua say in the book of Luke? Okay. Or is that Matthew the 10th chapter? Think not that I am come to send peace on earth. I came not to send peace, but a sword. So when Yahushua returns in this generation, like it tells you in Isaiah the 47th chapter, he's not going to meet this place as a man. He's coming back as an angelic force. Okay. Okay. So like I just read in Revelation 19, right? 19 verse 11, and I saw heaven open, behold a white horse, and he that sat upon him was called faithful and true, and in righteousness doth he judge and make war, because the slain of the Lord shall be many. And that's why when you read Revelation chapter 1 verse 7, it says what? Behold, he cometh with clouds, and every eye shall see him, and even those that pierced him, and all kindreds of the earth shall wail because of him. Wail means to scream, holler, run, panic. That's what the people are going to be doing at the presence of the Messiah when he returns. Because when he returns, he's going to be zapping people with laser beams from out of his UFO. Like they show you in some of these movies, they show these UFOs zapping people with laser beams. Well, that's what the Messiah is going to do when he returns. Okay, he'll command his angels, and his angels are going to go out there and just start zapping people that know not the Lord, right? Like it tells you in that's 2 Thessalonians the 1st chapter. Okay, when our Heavenly Father Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua shall be revealed from heaven, taking vengeance on all those that know not Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua and keep not his commandments. See, we know the elect are going to be covered in that day because they're the ones keeping the commandments of the Lord, right? Like it tells you in Revelation 14, these are they which keep the commandments of the Lord. Okay, I know it's written somewhere in Revelation 14, I think. Don't quote me on it. And I believe also in Revelation the 12th chapter, okay, and the dragon was wroth with the woman and went to go make war with the remnant of her seed, okay, against those that keep the commandments of the Lord. Now, we're not going to be justified by keeping all of the laws, statutes, and commandments, okay? We are rehearsing the righteous acts, meaning we are keeping the laws, statutes, and commandments, which we can keep to the best of our ability. We're keeping the laws, statutes, and commandments, which we can keep to the best of our ability. Okay. And that's through rehearsing the righteous acts of the Lord. Okay. So like it says in 2nd Esdras, the 9th chapter, and everyone that is of the elect that shall be saved shall be able to escape by their works and by faith whereby ye have believed shall be preserved from the said perils, and shall see my salvation in my land and within my borders. For I have sanctified them from me from the beginning. I have sanctified them for me from the beginning. Okay. And what are those works? The keeping, a part of those works is the keeping of the laws, statutes, and commandments to the best of your ability. Okay. And I saw heaven. Okay. So he doth judge and make war. Now, verse 12 says his eyes were as a flame of fire, and on his head were many crowns. So you see, you know what now. So when it says that the man that sitteth upon the white horse with the bow in Revelation, the 5th chapter, when it says that he had a crown on his head, and that he was going forth conquering to conquer, that's now you know what that means. Those many crowns is talking about those many crowns is a metaphor for the rulership of these other nations. Because it's not, well, when it says that he had many crowns upon his head, that's not talking about the Lord's head was about as big as Alaska, or the Lord's head was as big as the state of Ohio. The Lord's head was as big as the state of Georgia, and he had like 18 different crowns on his head. No, man, that's not what it's talking about. Okay, when it said he had many crowns on his head, it means those many crowns is talking about the rulerships. Okay, the presidents that have ruled over these different countries. That's what it's talking about. Okay, well, when he comes back, he's going to make war against every nation on this planet, and he's going to destroy them, and he's going to subjugate them, starting with the so-called elites who call themselves Rothschilds on this planet. They're going to be the first ones, according to the book of Psalms 149, the 149th chapter, verse 1. Pretty much that whole chapter is juicy. Pretty much that's all about the so-called elites going into slavery. Okay, the so-called elites who call themselves Rothschilds and all of their so-called elite families. They're all going to be slaves in the kingdom of heaven. So his eyes were as a flame of fire, meaning that he could have had glowing red eyes, or his eyes could have been red because, like it tells you, he was a wine bibber. But I know that when you have eyes a flame of fire, your eyes have the appearance of being red. And normally when people see red eyes, they get scared, they get terrified, you know. So hey, the Lord might have emissive glowing red eyes, you know, because we know fire emits light. So it says, and on his head were many crowns, right? He's going forth conquering to conquer, and he had a name written that no man knew. And that name is not talking about a name that no man knew. That name is going into his rank. He had a rank that no man knew. Okay? Because when Yahushua went back to the Father, well, before Yahushua went back to the Father, he never told his disciples what his rank was. Okay, he only told his disciples that, you know, there were many more things that needed to be done, but he was going to return. Well, the angels, well, after Yahushua got beamed up into his UFO in the book of Acts, the first chapter, the 7th verse on down, that, you know, the angel of the Lord told Yahushua's disciples, like, look, the same man that you saw left, because it tells you he got beamed up, Yahushua got beamed up into a cloud, right? It tells you that the same way this man left, he's going to return in like manner. Okay. But Yahushua told his disciples things that must come to pass. But he never told his disciples what his rank was. Okay. But Stephen had a good idea of what his rank was when he but before he got stoned, you know, he saw heaven open, and he saw the glory of Yahweh and Yahushua standing on the right hand of the Heavenly Father. So that gave Stephen a good idea of his rank, and not even Stephen disclosed to his fellow, you know, to his fellow worshippers of Yahushua what Yahushua's rank was. So nobody had a rank. Nobody knew what that rank was, especially in this generation. After we lost our heritage and our customs, you know, we forgot all about Yahweh Ba'ashem, Yahushua. So no man, So Yahushua had a rank that no man knew, right? And in the matter of fact, earlier on in the book of Revelation, it tells you, I believe that's Revelation, the 7th chapter, it tells you that the man that was crowning the elect was great. He was taller than the rest. Okay. So let's go back to Revelation chapter 6 verse 2. And I saw and behold a white horse, and he that sat upon him had a bow, and a crown was given unto him, and he went forth conquering to conquer. So conquering to conquer, that's where you get, where he had those many crowns on his head. That's because he was going forth conquering to conquer. So those many crowns is a representation of Yahushua taking all of these nations down and subjugating them and putting them into captivity, and Yahushua becoming the ultimate ruler on this planet Earth, with his elect men being joint heirs with him in rulership. Okay. So let's read verse 3. Okay. And when he had opened the second seal, I heard a second beast say, "Come and see." Verse 4. And there went out another horse. Excuse me one moment. All right, Salak, I am back. So Revelation chapter 6 verse 4. And there went out another horse that was red, and power was given him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth. Now, when did this happen? Now, first off, what we need to do is identify who the red horse is. Okay, let's start off by going to the book of Genesis, the 25th chapter, because it's important to understand why this horse is called red. Okay, because well, first let's do it one step at a time. Genesis chapter 25 verse 25. Well, you know what? Let's start up here at verse 23. Genesis 25 verse 23. And the Lord said unto her, unto who? Unto Rebekah, two nations are in thy... Hold on. Yeah, it is Rebekah, right? And the Lord said unto Rebekah, two nations are in thy womb, and two manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels. Okay, because two manner of people, right? Well, the Lord is going to specify even further. And the one people shall be stronger than the other people, and the elder shall serve the younger. Now, when the Lord said that when he said that the one people shall be stronger than the other, it's talking about Jacob. Jacob would be stronger than Esau. Okay. Okay. Jacob will be stronger than Esau. And Jacob's name was changed to Israel. Now, who are the Israelites today? The Israelites are you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Indians. You are the true biblical Israelites that the Holy Scriptures speak of. Okay. Now, Esau, on the other hand, the elder who came out first, Esau became the progenitor of the so-called white race that you see on the planet today. And it's going to tell you right here. Genesis 25 verse 24. And when her days to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb. So there were twins in her womb. But these were not identical twins. These were fraternal twins. Okay, if you don't know what a fraternal twin is, a fraternal twin is basically two babies who come out of the womb of a woman, but one baby is born looking so-called white. The other baby comes out with brown skin and woolly hair. So Jacob and Esau were fraternal twins. Okay. And it's gonna explain it right here. And when her days were to be, and when her days to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb, and the first came out red. Notice that word red there, okay? And the first came out red all over like a hairy garment. Now, it doesn't mean that Esau came out red, but he was, hairy like a monkey. Because if he was hairy like a gorilla or a cave monkey, how would they be able to identify that he was red? Okay? Because babies are not born with hair all over their bodies. So when it says he was red all over like a hairy garment, that's talking about a tradition that people used to do back in the ancient world, okay? Because back in the ancient world, whenever they would dye their garment would usually be dyed one color, okay? It would be dipped in one particular color, and then basically the whole entire garment would pretty much be that color. So basically, when it says Esau came out red all over like a hairy garment, that means that he came out, when he came out the womb of Rebecca, his whole entire body was red. Now, why was his whole entire body red? Because Esau was the very first being to be born on the planet with no melanin in his skin. What is melanin? Melanin is the substance which basically turns your skin brown. Okay, so Esau came out red because, so when Esau was born out of Rebecca, he came out red. And the reason why he came out red all over his body was because his blood showed forth through his skin. How is it possible to see somebody's blood through their skin? Well, Esau's skin was translucent because self-proclaimed white people do not have a skin color. Okay? Their skin is translucent. And if your skin is translucent, what does that mean? It means that you could literally see the white meat under their skin. Okay? And there's a reason why it's called a white meat, because it's really the meat or the tissue below your skin that protects your bones, your cartilage, and other tissues, underneath it. Okay? And guess what? We all have white meat under our skin. Okay? We all have white meat under our skin. I don't care if you was brown skin, purple skin, green skin. We all have white meat under our skin, okay? That's why, like, when somebody falls and they get a graze on them, what is the first thing they normally see before they start bleeding? They usually see the white meat, right? If they get like a deep graze in their arm or something, that they'll see the white meat. They'll see the white meat before the blood starts to rises up outside of the bruise. Okay, so we all have white meat under our skin. However, the Edomites, self-proclaimed white people, they don't have a skin complexion. They don't have a skin color. Their skin is translucent. If you don't know what translucent skin is basically is skin that you can see through. So if it's skin that you can see through, then you know that you can see whatever is under their skin. And in this case, you can see the white meat of so-called white people under their skin. And that is why, because again, blood rises above the white meat. whenever the body is exposed to certain temperatures, or rather if somebody gets punched, slapped, embarrassed, or there's a chemical reaction that goes on in the body, okay, the blood begins to rise above the white meat. So guess what? In Esau's case, okay, because he came out of Rebecca being a newborn baby, his whole body was red because of the blood that was showing forth under his skin. Because all of you so-called white people, and you know this to be true, when y'all take y'all asses out, and when y'all take y'all asses out in the hot blazing sun, okay, when y'all take y'all asses out in a hot blazing sun, and when you stand out there, even if it's for 30 minutes to an hour, when you stand out in that hot blazing sun, what happens? You start to turn red. Why do you start to turn red? Because of the blood that shows forth above the white meat under your skin. Just like your forefather Esau. Okay, that's a part of why he was called Edom in this very same chapter. Because Esau was not only called Edom because he wanted to eat red pottage. He was called Edom because when he came back from that hot blazing field from hunting, his ass was red like a lobster because that sun was out there cooking his ass while he was out there, you know, hunting amongst snakes and hunting deer and ducking in tall grass, sneaking up on tigers and shit. Yeah, Esau was doing all that shit, man, because the Bible tells you he's a cunning hunter of the field, just like Mr. Crocodile Dundee, okay, who liked to grab snakes by his head and, you know, jump on alligators and you know. But anyways, you know, and the first came out red all over like a hairy garment, and they called his name Esau. And there's a reason why his parents named him Esau. The word Esau goes back to the Hebrew word Ishashwa, which means what? Wasted away as he. And the reason why Esau was named wasted away as he is because, well, what made him wasted away? The fact that he had no melanin. He was deprived of his melanin at birth, which is why he was born with translucent skin. Okay? And after that came his brother out, and his hand took hold on Esau's heel, and his name was called Jacob. And Isaac was 80 years old when she bare him. So Esau was described as red. And that's why we say so-called white people, because you're not white, you're red. And the reason why you're known as red, which the Hebrew word for Edom, which when you go to Genesis, the 36th chapter, right? Genesis 36, right? Genesis 36 verse 1. Now these are the generations of Esau, who is Edom. Okay. Then when you go down to verse 9, Genesis 36 verse 9. And these are the generations of Esau, the father of the Edomites and Mount Seir. Okay. So Esau is Edom. Now, when you go into that word Edom, it goes back to the Hebrew word Adawan. No, it goes back to the Hebrew word Adawam. Okay, Adawam. Adawam. And the Hebrew word Adawam, which is the Hebrew word for Edom, literally means red. So these are the generations of Esau, who is red. Why is Esau red? Because of the blood that shows forth under his skin. Because whenever Esau would stand out in a hot blazing sun for too long, or whenever he would get too cold or embarrassed or angry, what happens? He would start to turn red, just like you so-called white people in today's time. Thus, Esau is the forefather. Esau is the progenitor of all of you so-called white people today. Okay, so now when we go to the book of Genesis, the 27th chapter, right? This is going into the blessing Okay. Let's see. Okay, let me see. And Isaac, his father, answers him to him. Okay, so let's start at verse 38. Genesis 38. Genesis 27, verse 38. And Esau said unto his father, because Isaac and Rebekah, they were all brown skinned. Isaac, Rebekah, and Jacob, they were all brown skinned and had woolly hair. Abraham, brown skin, woolly hair. Sarah, brown skin, woolly hair. Okay, every nation on the planet had brown skin and woolly hair. Okay, Esau was the very first person to be born on the planet with no brown skin and stringy hair. Okay, so, and Isaac said unto his father, hast thou but one blessing, my father? Bless me, even me also, O my father. And Esau lifted up his voice and wept. And Isaac his father answered and said unto him, behold, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth and of the dew of heaven from above. And by thy sword shalt thou live, and shalt serve thy brother. You see that? And by thy sword shalt thou live, and shalt serve thy brother. And it shall come to pass, when thou shalt have the dominion, that thou shalt break his yoke from off thy neck. And Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing wherewith his father blessed him. And Esau said in his heart, the word heart goes back to the Hebrew word lab, which means your mind. The days of mourning for my father are at hand. Then will I slay my brother Jacob. So now, when we go back to the book of Revelation, chapter 6, verse 3, right? It says, and when he had opened the second seal, I heard the second beast say, come and see. And there went out another horse that was red. This red horse is a metaphor, a dark saying for the Edomites. Okay. Also, let's come over here to the book of Revelation, chapter 20. And we will start at 7. And when 1,000 years are expired, now this is talking about a different type of 1,000 years. Okay. This is talking about a different type of 1,000 years. This is not talking about 1,000 years in the within the kingdom of heaven, because after according to biblical prophecy, after the Edomites served their 1,000 years in the kingdom of heaven, they're going to be eradicated, obliterated from off the face of the earth via being burned, gathered together, and then burned in pits. And being gathered together and then burned in the pit. Okay. So it says here, right, this 1,000 year period is talking about, you know, this is going from the Dark Ages into the Renaissance period, because during the Dark Ages, right, from you know, I can't necessarily put a year on it, but from the Dark Ages, when we used to rule, right, we used to rule Europe, Germany, Moscow, Russia. Okay, we used to rule North America, South America, you know, even parts of China and Japan. We used to have rule over all those areas. Okay. Okay, we used to have rule over all those areas. And you know, when the time of the Renaissance came, okay, that's when our 1,000 year reign of having control over, you know, Europe during the Dark Ages, when we used to have control over Europe, Germany, Russia, you know, North Korea, South Korea, you know, parts of China, Japan, when we used to have control of those areas during the Dark Ages, what happened? It tells you up here, Satan freed. Okay, so Satan here is not talking about the spiritual demon Satan. Satan is talking about a nation of people here on earth. Now, I will look up the definition, but thankfully I have the definition remembered by heart. Okay, the word Satan goes back to the Greek word diabolus, which means pertaining to a man, or metaphor. It'll say metaphor first in the definition, and then it'll say the full second definition, I believe it's the second definition. It would literally say metaphor applied to a man by whom opposing the will of Yahweh, Bashem, Yahweh Shai. Okay, said to play the part or to act the part of Satan, or to side with him. So Satan here is not talking about the spiritual demon Satan. Satan is talking about a man on earth. So there's a physical nation of people here on the planet doing the bidding of the spiritual demon Satan. And those particular nation people here on earth is the self-proclaimed white man. Okay, so when it says here in Revelation 20 verse 7, and when 1,000 years are expired, this is the 1,000 years here is talking about the 1,000-year period between transitioning from the Dark Ages, when we basically ruled during the Dark Ages for 1,000 years, going all the way into the Renaissance period. Okay, so when 1,000 years are expired, meaning the end of the Dark Ages when we used to rule, going into the Renaissance period, Satan shall be loosed out of his prison. Now, when it says Satan shall be loosed out of his prison, it's not talking about an actual prison. It's talking about meaning he's gonna come up out of the caves. He's gonna be loosed from having some of them captive, because we did used to have some of these Edomites captive in captivity. And then ultimately he's going to do what? Verse 8, and shall go out and deceive the nations which are on the four corners of the earth, Gog and Magog, which Gog and Magog is talking about Russia, because remember, we used to rule parts of Russia before we were taken out of power during the Renaissance period, to go gather them together to battle, the number of whom is as the sand of the sea. Okay, and who is as the sand of the sea? Okay, and what nations are these have they gathered? Well, it's talking about the other nations, the Arabs. Okay, so that's ultimately who they deceived, right? They basically, these Edomites, the self-proclaimed white people, okay, as soon as they started, rising up into power, and they basically started going amongst all of these other nations, the Chinese people, the Japanese people, the Arabs, the East Indians, okay, the Africans, the Japhetic people, which would be the Samoans, Etruscans, Hawaiians, Mauians, the Japanese people. They went amongst these people and basically deceived them and basically convinced them to do what? To battle them which are of the number of the sea, to battle the number of whom is as the sand of the sea. And who is as the sand of the sea? We are. Okay. Did not the Lord promise Abraham that Israel will be as the sand of the sea? So that's us. Okay, the Israelites. So when these devils, when they came up into power, okay, their first priority was to go amongst all of these other nations, deceive them, and then gather them together to basically to make war against us. Why? So ultimately the Edomites can rise up to power by getting the other nations to help them to take us down, to put us into captivity, So then ultimately, you know, we can go into captivity, you know, and all this happened during the Renaissance period. You know, that's where, you know, during the Renaissance period, you get the whole thing about the bubonic plague or the Black Death. You know, you got the conquistadors, the Spaniards, you know, who came over here to the Americas. And what was the first thing they did? They pretended like they was going to make war. I mean, they pretended like they was going to make peace with our people, but they did what? They basically turned their sword on our people. Okay, they turned their sword on our people. Tells you that in Isaiah 55, the 55th chapter and the 20th verse. I don't necessarily need to get it, but that's what happened. Okay. So then, right, when we go back over here to Revelation 6, and there went out another horse that was red, and power was given him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth. Now you know how these devils took peace from the earth. It all started during the Renaissance period when they was loose after that 1,000-year period of being under our subjugation, after being 1,000 years under our rule. Okay, because again, during the Dark Ages, who was ruling Europe, Russia, Germany, Moscow, you know, parts of China, Japan, you know, North and South America. Who was ruling those regions? We had control of those regions. Okay, even Gad. Okay, our people, the so-called North American Indians, that was our people that was ruling and living down there in Antarctica. Even the continent Antarctica, that was our people ruling those areas. Okay. So when the Renaissance period came, which the word Renaissance means rebirth, and the Renaissance period was all about the Edomites rising up into power, while gathering the other nations to make war against us, to bring us down from our rulerships, you know, to bring us down from our rulerships in Europe, Russia, Moscow, parts of China, Japan, North and South America, you know, Canada, Antarctica, and ultimately to put us into captivity. And all of these other nations were basically deceived by these Edomites because, well, like it tells you in the book of Psalms 58 verse 3, okay, the wicked are estranged from the womb. They go astray as soon as they be born, speaking lies. And we all know that the wicked are the Edomites. Malachi chapter 1 verse 4. So I'm going to have to make another part to this series. All praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai. Salutations to the Lord's elect and double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Shalom. It's on to the next one.